men who get divorced, their risk of suicide skyrockets. So the question is like, why? And I think it is because of this sense of like not being needed, not being served. Like if your kids are at home and your wife's at home and you're contributing to the family unit.
Men only feel needed. They only feel needed when it's related to finances. Men don't feel needed in any other way. And the reason why is because men don't contribute in a meaningful way outside of finances. So like it is what it is. You can lie to yourself and tell yourself you're needed, and you could gaslight yourself into believing you're needed, or you could try to gaslight your wife and your kids into believing that you're needed. But like in reality, you're not needed, and it is because of you. You haven't made yourself an invaluable member of the team, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? You're not like a good role player or anything like that. It's like you just show up just to drop off some money, and then you go back to being in your own world. That's the reality. That's the reality. And I don't feel for men at all when it comes to this, because men have done this. We do this to ourselves.
I think that's much more obvious. And it's really interesting in recent surveys, in the US at least, men are now more likely than women to say that it's important to them to get married.
The reason why men think that it's more important for them to get married is they always felt like it was more important for them to get married. But women felt the same. Like women felt similarly to the man, but it was because of the setup, right? The women had to be married to a man so that she can have access to certain things, and she could have certain freedoms and certain protections, right? So the women wanted to get married too. Fast forward to 2024, I think the men are still about the same. They still want to be married. They still, you know what I mean? Like most men, they know the benefits of marriage or whatever the case may be. But the women are like, nah, that's a lose-lose situation for me. That's what happened. I think the men stayed here, and the women used to be here, even because it was a greater desire for them because they needed the marriage. But now women are here and men are here, or even men are here. Okay, cool. But it's still, men are still around closer to where they need to be, whereas women dropped way below when it comes to marriage.
So what does that say about what's going on in men's heads if they're now more keen on marriage than women? Because that's, to me, sounded a little bit, I know, territorial.
Well, there's a danger with that, and of course you can get into real trouble, as one of your previous guests did, by talking about enforced monogamy.
Who talked
Jordan
about?
Peterson.
So that is the solution for men. The solution for men is to force monogamy, and that's the problem. The problem isn't it's just like capitalists, right? Like, okay, so so the economy is doing bad. Capitalists go to the government and say, hey, give us the money, don't give it to the people, right? They convince the government, or they tell the government, they don't got to convince them, but they tell the government, hey, don't bail out the homeowners, bail out the banks. We need the money, right? That's the problem. Men are thinking like capitalists. They're thinking like instead of us actually addressing the problem, let's, like I said, so back to my analogy, give the money to the people. That solves the problem, because the people are going to get the money and they're going to pay the banks with the money anyway. So it doesn't make any sense to give the money to the banks. You give the people the money, they pay their mortgages. That's what happens. Everybody gets made whole in that situation. When you give the money to the banks, only the banks get made whole, right? So with men and women, if you force monogamy on women, women don't get made whole. You're not actually correcting the problem. The family is still going to suffer. But men get made whole, because now we got our women back underneath our roof. They can't do anything. Men take an authoritative approach to issues like this when we should take an egalitarian approach. When we should take the approach of, okay, women, what do you need from us to facilitate a situation where you are a whole healthy human being. Oh, we don't care about that. No. We're just gonna strip you of your right to choose a mate. Strip you of your autonomy. That's the solution in most men's mind. It's always to revert back to violence. It's always to revert back to control, to power, or something like that. And I fight so hard to get men to understand that that's not how you win this game. How you win the game is to cooperate, right? Like KRS-One said, competition is not the key. It's cooperation, right? How do you compete? You don't compete. You cooperate. While everybody else is competing, you cooperate and you win. But we don't want to cooperate with our women. We don't. And that is because we are told not to cooperate. We are told not to cooperate with women. That's what it is. You know, we're told by people who have vested interests in keeping men separated from women. That's what it is. So we're told not to cooperate with our women. We're taught not to cooperate with our women. We're conditioned to not cooperate with our women or with women in general. That's the problem. We need to be focusing on cooperation. Period.
Men who get divorced, their risk of suicide skyrockets.
Men dehumanize. We dehumanize ourselves. Women are not the problem here. Again, men are the ones who are dehumanizing themselves. Men are the ones who see themselves as a protective provider, a paycheck and a goddamn guard dog. We're a paycheck and a guard dog, a paycheck and a guard dog. That's what we are. We're Dobermans with paychecks. That's the issue. Men need to stop dehumanizing ourselves, right? We need to see ourselves as people so that we can see the women as people so that we can come together and cooperate and find a solution. And honestly, the solution is simple. You should make yourself be valuable to your family by showing up for them, by being present, by being pleasant, by being generous, by being kind, by being honest. That's how you show up for your family. And now you're needed. Now you're a resource. Now you're an asset like the mom is the vast majority of the time. The fathers are liabilities in a lot of these situations. The fathers are the ones that are going to abuse. The fathers are the ones that are going to neglect. And the fathers are the ones who are going to risk the livelihoods of their families far before the women do. Far before the women do. Far before the mothers do. That's just the reality. So you're a risk. You're a flight risk. You're a threat. You're all of these negative things. You just need to flip that switch so that you could be a positive force, so you can make an impact. That's all it is, man. We just don't want to do it. We're not interested in doing it, though. I feel bad for some men in these instances who want to, unalive themselves. But like at the end of the day, I'm just kind of like, man, dude. In all honesty, it's better that than to turn into a mass unaliver, a family annihilator type guy. I scream that every single time those men do that. I'm always yelling at the screen like, why not just unalive yourself? You don't want to be here anyway. Just unalive yourself. Why does everybody have to go? So weird. I don't understand that.